Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. Today, Melanie and I are really breaking down some of the pros and cons of owning your own business. And I think oftentimes, especially in social media today, we are just infiltrated with all of these ideas of what it means to leave the 9 to 5, what it means to work for yourself, what it means to work from home. And I think it's often met with this super rosy picture of what is on the other side of you just simply making the decision to do something for yourself. But there is also this reality of what that entails of you as a person, what types of structures you need to put in place in order to be successful. And Melanie actually had such a significant why behind her reason for building her business that she made the leap and never looked back. And it's a really inspiring story of the difference that one decision can simply make in your life when you make the choice to take a bet on yourself, but also realize that there is an aspect of the now what, and now I'm responsible for myself, and how am I going to make this work to keep it going? Listen to all the nitty-gritty details of us breaking down some of the realities behind building a business for yourself and the impact that it can have both on you, but also your family. Melanie, I am so glad that we have connected through the Boss Mom platform. When I left teaching in 2023, it was one of those situations where I left this highly social profession to work from home and all of a sudden find myself alone in a home office. And now I'm just having so many connections with wonderful women like yourself. And I am looking forward to our conversation today and seeing where it goes.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And the connections, including yourself, that we've made through community has been invaluable.
Let's maybe start there. How did you find yourself on the Boss Mom platform? Not that we're necessarily promoting the Boss Mom platform, but just how did you come to find yourself as a woman, as a business owner on that sort of platform? And what were you seeking for yourself or for your business through that?
Sure. Well, the biggest reason I'm a big proponent of relationships, I advocate for relationships and for community. And that's been one of the most important factors of the success in my business and just working online. I'm constantly looking for relationship building opportunities. I'm looking for networking. I'm looking for community, not just being a business owner necessarily where that's valuable, but also being a mom. And I'm a single mom. And then also being an online business owner, we're typically locked in an office or in a corner in our house, and we don't go into an office and we don't get to build relationships face to face with people like we would out in corporate world, out in the wild, as we say. And we don't really build relationships in that same way. So when I found out about Boss Mom community, that's why I ended up joining that. And from the start of my business, one of the things that I found very quickly is that business is so much about the relationships that you build more than it is about the sales, more than it is about the marketing, because the marketing comes from relationships. So I can talk about that all day. But the reason why we're even in this room today is through that connection. And I think that's so important. And that's how I ended up looking for a community like Boss Mom Plus. But in any point in my business, I'm always looking for the best way for communities. Plus, I find that if I'm on social media, I end up doom scrolling and I'm saving recipes. I'm like, wait, aren't I supposed to be doing something for my business right now? And I get distracted. So that's why I like dedicated communities like that, because it allows me to go in there intentionally and not just, oh, well, I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram or TikTok just because I feel like I should.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you that I feel sometimes like I myself am getting lost in social media more than it's actually helping me. It wasn't until I got myself into a community where I started to actually feel those connections. So, what are some of the positives of the social media and downsides, but also plus sides of actually being in a community compared to just saying, okay, I'm just going to be on social media and this is where I'm going to build relationships?
Well, I can't downplay the role social media has had in my business, particularly Facebook, because Facebook groups are how I've made some of my best connections, how I've landed some of my favorite clients. And I think that intentionally, it can be a really great tool for your business for connection, but also for marketing. And if you go into a platform with a plan, with a set time frame, with the right mindset, it can be a really valuable tool to be able to market and grow your business, make those connections, like we said, and also find other people to learn from. Podcasts, courses, tools, coaches, they can be really great places to find those things. However, on the flip side of that, there's so many voices, there's so much noise, there's so many opportunities for distraction and shiny object syndrome.
Mm.
There's so many voices, you don't know who to pay attention to. And I found that in the last 6, 7 years of running my business, that I've had to be really careful with how many voices I let in my head, with how many people I have influencing my life and my business. So that can be a con to social media. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, I can find myself getting really distracted where I'm supposed to be working in my business, but I find myself scrolling through TikTok and saving a recipe, or I'm homeschooling mom myself. So I'm like, oh, this project looks cool. And then an hour goes by and I've gotten nothing done. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear you. I think that that's the part of social media that's so hard is it's access to all information, not just focused like this is where I am at for my business because it's supposed to be sending you all that information, right? Like, oh, I think she's going to like this recipe, so this needs to come across her feed or oh, hey, here's a homeschooling tip. And so like you said, even though you're in there for the right reasons,
right.
it is so easy to get distracted, and that is what I've appreciated about the boss mom community or other communities is that it feels a little more like you're going there for a specific purpose. You're showing up, this is what I'm supposed to be doing there, and I'm not going to get lost in
Right.
all of this other stuff that ties to other aspects of my life when I said that I'm going to spend the next hour in my business and not on recipes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about being a single mom. One of the statements that I think I read in your social media was that you and your daughter have really grown up together. You found yourself as a mom at a younger age, and you two have really just built this relationship together as a mother and daughter over the course of your life. So I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yes, I had my daughter when I was 21 years old, and she's almost 12 now. And I've been a single mom 11 of those years. During that time when I had her, we were living with my parents, and I was making minimum wage, but I was still working overtime and wasn't able to afford anything really, and just trying to figure it out. And so I found myself working so many hours, and I missed so many years of her growing up in those first few years. It's hard not to talk about business in this journey because so much of what we've been able to accomplish together is because of the leap I took to start my
Mm.
business. So when she was about 4 years old is when I started my business, because there was so much of her life I was missing, but I still wasn't able to fully provide for us. So I just kind of dove in. I got some clients, I found some family support. I actually started a virtual assistant business. And after getting a couple clients, I quit my job. So in all of that, my daughter is just my favorite person in the world. And so from the beginning, we've been a team. And I started my business not necessarily to make money, but to get time back with her is really the point of all of this. It's never been to make 6 figures or to make a ton of money. It's to be able to homeschool her. It's to be able to never have to miss an award ceremony, to never have to miss a soccer game. She's in competitive softball now. And we were at the gym this morning and then we came home. She got all of her curriculum done and now she's relaxing out there. It's 11 a.m. And that never would have been possible with where we were. But we had to grow in this together, that she had to learn how to have a mom that worked at home. Like, I'm not available all the time. And the biggest key to our success, I feel, is our communication. Her and I talk about everything. We talk through everything. We identify our emotions and how we're feeling. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed with an appropriate amount,
Yeah.
I tell her, like, we're just going to get pizza today because today is a heavy day. And when I had her, I had no idea who I was as a person. And her being the person she is has truly pushed me to be the best person that I can be. And we're constantly working to be the best mother daughter sort of duo. And there are days where we struggle and we fight, but truly, more than anything, this business has been the biggest gift to my relationship with my daughter. And yeah,
Yeah.
I can talk about that part all day, but it truly has transformed not just our lives, but my family's life. Like, we've been able to show up for our friends and family. We have been able to homeschool through COVID. Like, we didn't have to skip a beat. She went through some really dark things at school that I won't talk about on this podcast, but having this business has allowed me to support her in the way that she's needed that support. And it goes hand in hand. And it's been just the biggest blessing in our lives.
And I would say, just in hearing you say this out loud, that's really what resonates through so much of your content. You can feel through your words that your daughter is your favorite person, but that this business truly is so much more than a business, because it's really about what allows you to have the life that you want to have with your daughter. And I think that's what we all want, right? But a lot of us don't really know how to get there. Like, we get stuck in the things that we are doing, right? Like, had you decided not to leave that job that you had originally that was all time consuming, that would have been the safer choice at the time. But it was that little what if. And all of a sudden, that little what if turned into this life that you're saying you're now able to have with your daughter, that the business truly is a gift. It's not just something you're doing or something that you created. It's this platform for all these other aspects of your life that you now get to love because of it.
The way that I think about it is, it's scarier to stay where you're at and stay unhappy instead of taking the scary leap, because at least you can say you gave it a try, but more often than not, you're going to look back and thank yourself. More times than not, if you bet on yourself, that's probably the best bet you can make.
Hands down agree with that. It was the same reason that 2 years ago, I ended up leaving this teaching career that I actually really loved to take a chance on myself, and that's exactly what I said to myself, is like, I know I am not gonna regret this. I'm going to thank myself for this at some point, even if it fails, right? If my daughter came to me 10, 15 years from now, she's only 4, and said, "Mom, should I do this or should I take a chance and bet on myself over here?" What would I be telling her? I would be telling her, "You need to bet on yourself. Like, you can do this. You got this, girl." And I can't say that to her if I can't say that to myself. And so I love that you're pointing that out too. Like, you won't regret it. Even if I have to go back to teaching, which isn't even a worst case scenario because it was a job that I loved,
Mhm.
I can still say, like, I did this for myself and I learned a ton when I did it. Mhm.
Absolutely. And for me, when I started my business, it wasn't even the case of, can I do this? I was almost more afraid of the success. Like, if I'm successful, what does that mean? It's like, I know I can do the work and I know I can do that, but what does that unknown look like? And that's the scary part, is the unknown. Because if I can do it, and I know everybody says this, if I can do it, then you can do it. But I, in these last 6 years, have gone through so much life. I don't show up the most on social media like I air quote should. I don't go out there and run ads, and I don't have all of my stuff together. But I do show up every day, and I show up for my clients, I show up for my relationships, and I show up where it matters and intentionally. And that's where the success is. So you don't have to be perfect to make it happen. And even in these last 6 years, I've gone through health crisis. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and all of this life that's happened, everything I've learned about myself on this journey, if I can do it, anybody absolutely can. It's just, the biggest thing is that you can't give up. even if it's a little bit of progress every day. And if that progress is even just calling yourself a business owner, is just saying, hey, I'm a business owner. That teaches yourself to say, okay, well, now I'm going to show up as a business owner. And it's just little steps every day.
Do you think that because you had your daughter at such a young age and then found yourself a single mom, do you feel like there was any aspect in there with you having to tackle that and then deciding to do the new business that made a difference at all?
Really good question. And I don't even know if that's something that I've considered before.
Okay.
In thinking about it, I am fortunate in so many ways that I have family support. My parents were very helpful in those early years, but I feel like those first few years of me being a single mom, I really feel like I wasn't doing it fully on my own. And this might sound silly, but I wanted to. I wanted to fully be a present mom. I wanted to show up. So I feel like it was one of those things like, yes, I can do hard things, but I also want to do hard things. I want to do something fulfilling. I want to do something that gives back, and not just in life, but in my family. And so I feel like up until the point that I started my business, I was just sort of letting life happen to me. And I wasn't taking control of my own life. So a part of it was just this sense of needing to do something for myself that then benefited my daughter and my family. And I feel like I really didn't fully step into the person that I am now until I started my business, until
Mm.
I took that chance on myself. And then at that point, I was really able to see like, this is where my daughter's struggling. This is where she needs help, because I was so in the working 9 to 5 and I was just sort of surviving that it was hard to notice where we needed to address things, where systems needed to be created at home. But once I was able to be at home full time, then I was able really fully to show up for my family the way that they needed me. I needed to be a better mom. And in order to do that, I needed to make some seriously different choices. And starting my business was the start of turning our entire life upside down, not just in my business, but at home. There were a lot of changes. Not long after that, we got our first apartment by ourselves and figured out how to do it on our own. And life sort of began at that point, I feel like.
In some ways, you had to stop and think about where do I want to be? Like, this is my reality as I sit here today. But if I don't want that to continue to be a reality for all these reasons, right? I'm not showing up as a present mom. I don't have enough income to support my family. We want our own apartment. We want whatever. You have to start taking action at some point in some aspect of your life in order to make that happen. And it's why I've actually grown to really love talking with so many women on my podcast, because your journeys all come back to who am I today and who do I want to be? And that question comes at lots of different phases in our lives and for different reasons. Like, you became a mom at a younger age. I didn't become a mom until I was 38, right? Like, I had those years in my 20s and 30s to fully get to know who I am. I had this dedicated career that I was showing up to every single day. And then I became a mom at 38. And all of a sudden, I recognized like I've had my time to have this super focused career and showing up for everybody else's kids as a teacher. But this is who I want to be now that I am a mom. But again, it was that question of like who I am today and who do I want to be? And then taking action to do that. And so I just find it so fascinating that it doesn't really matter what age that occurs. It's that very specific decision to go after the who I want to be.
Right. And I love that story. And you're so right. It's that before and after moment. And I think we have a few of those moments in our lives, but especially as women, the way that we're made up are made as caretakers, as the people that usually put others before ourselves. And there comes a point in most women's lives where they say, okay, but what do I need? Where do my needs come in? And I think that can happen for a number of reasons. It could be like, I need to be a different person so I can actually show up for the people the way that they need to, like my story. Or like yourself, you're like, okay, I've been doing it this way for so long. And now my life looks different. Now, where do I want to be? And I think that when we can self reflect and sort of put our needs before others, I think we actually show up for
Mhm.
our children, our significant others, our families, our friends, our clients better that way when we put our needs first. And the sort of cliche saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. I think that's so true. And I was actually having a conversation with Dana, who owns Boss Mom. We had a late night boxer conversation while we were redesigning her website, actually. And we were talking about how, other than motherhood itself, I truly think there's nothing more self reflecting and transformative than being a business owner, because you have to look within yourself. You have to self reflect. You have to persevere and do things you never thought were possible in order to be successful in business.
Absolutely. It takes you into this very different realm and understanding of what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. And to your point, the more that you start to learn that about yourself and what your strengths and your capacities are, you do need to set boundaries and very clear systems and express those emotions to whoever it is in your life in order to make sure that you are complete and that you are fulfilled and you do have what you need to support yourself, because you're right, you can't keep showing up empty, empty, empty. And I mean, eventually a lot of systems break down when that happens. It's not just even in business.
Absolutely. I agree.
One of the things that you talk about on your website is how you work with individuals that have lost a little bit of like that passion for
Mhm.
their business or maybe like the direction on their business, because they are, I think, bogged down by trying to do it all and trying to be everything for everyone. So, how do you help people navigate that? Because it does feel like such a personal journey.
Mhm.
One, you have to be willing to do some self discovery, and two, then with that self discovery, you have to be willing to be honest with yourself about what it might take to get back to what you need to do. So, how do you help other people navigate that?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of that comes from discovering where to find that passion, that excitability, that, you wake up in the morning and you're looking forward to getting out of bed. You're excited about the day, whether that's with energy or not, or coffee or whatever starts your day. I think it's being excited and loving your life while you're running your business. So, a lot of the people that I've worked with up until recently are service based businesses. And so a lot of those people, they're working with clients that don't value their time. So they're generally working too many hours, they're not charging enough money. And so they end up running a business, but it still feels like they're working at a desk job because they're glued to their desk all the time and they've created their own monster. And they usually have to take a couple steps back, figure out where's the issue. Are your prices too low? Are you just working with any client just because they said yes? Are you not offering the right services? Are you not in love with your messaging? Are you saying what you think you should say and not what's actually from your heart? Do you have a community? Or maybe your business looks good, but your home life is a mess. You're not seeing your kids, you're not spending time with the people in your lives, and sort of almost diagnosing somewhere in there what is going on in your business. And so that's what I like to do with my clients. Do we need to do sort of an overhaul of all of the things? And I think this is apparent in our conversation. I don't believe in just business life balance. I think there's a really big integration because working from home, us being moms, everything blends together. So I like to ask the people that I work with, where do you feel the most discontent? What do you find yourself procrastinating? What do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night thinking about? Where are you just sitting down and realizing I've got nothing done? Just kind of looking and seeing where those pain points are. And then we can pretty quickly identify what's going on, and then coming up with an action plan, whether that be to look at your schedule and how we can be more intentional. How can we raise your rates? Maybe you don't like the services you offer, and just start creating a plan to get out of the hole that we're in, because it's never too late. You're never in too deep to be able to make a change, whether that be in life or in business.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about the alignment, because I really do agree with you that it's not really about balance. Even if I think about myself with my daughter and travel and business, It's never all balanced in terms of time,
Right.
and I think that's an impossible goal to even attempt, is to have everything perfectly balanced. It's all perfectly equal. I'm spending the same amount of time with my kid that I am with my business. It's an ebb and a flow,
Right.
and I like that you pinpoint exactly where you're not feeling aligned, because often if you can get to that one thing, it makes sense then why you're feeling stress out here. It really has nothing to do with what's out here. It's really just this one spot.
Right.
And I felt that exact feeling yesterday because my husband was doing a training flight. And so I was just on my own with my kiddo, but I had had one of those days where the doom scrolling and the distraction and all the things got in the way. And I didn't get done what I wanted to get done before I picked my daughter up from daycare. Then we were playing and whatever, but my brain kept wanting to go to all these things that I needed to do instead. And I really had to be like, I am not frustrated in this moment about playing. I am frustrated that I didn't get done what I needed to get done, but that has nothing to do with where I'm sitting right now. Right. But I could have just been like, oh, I'm frustrated with her, but it really wasn't her. So I love that you get back to like that very specific thing of where is that sticking point.
Exactly. And I'm so familiar with this process because I think that we never stop keeping ourselves in check. Like there's always going to be something that comes up that throws us out of alignment. And being self aware enough to know, oh, I'm feeling really tired. I'm doom scrolling more often. I'm finding less energy. Like, what is out of alignment? And maybe we're just not getting enough sleep. Like, start with the basics. Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating what you're supposed to? Are you doing those things? Okay. And then, even if you're not, well, what's causing you not to do those things? Why are we scrolling so much? And sometimes I find there's even a root to that. Like, if we're doom scrolling a lot, are we avoiding something?
Yes.
Are we just so tapped out in every other area? We just need to disassociate for a little bit. And
Mhm.
maybe sometimes I think that's okay. And there's a little bit of okay in all of that. But I like what you said that those misalignments come out in other areas. We're frustrated with our kids. Well, I'm not actually frustrated with you. So why am I feeling this way? Why is this directed towards you? And being able to ask yourself those questions is so important.
And it takes practice because it's very easy to get caught up in the, well, this is just how I'm feeling in this exact moment. And so it has to be with what I'm doing right in front of me. And I had interviewed a gal named Deb who had me do this practice of sitting there and then just putting my hand on my heart and taking some breaths. And like it was just more of a mind body connection. And I have started to do that ever since that podcast interview with her. And that was what slowed me down long enough to actually think like, am I actually frustrated with what's right in front of me and what it is that I'm doing? Or is there something else that happened today? But it has to be intentional. It takes practice to pause yourself long enough to figure out what that thing is, or
And
a coach.
yes, exactly. And this is relevant, but not completely on topic that as women, it also depends on what week of the month we're in. Like, is it also just that I'm in my luteal phase and I am just tired and my hormones are off and I just need a nap? Sometimes like, is it just that too? So being aware of your body and knowing yourself enough to know during this phase, I'm more prone to being anxious and overthinking and doom scrolling and being aware of those things. Like you said, it takes practice and it takes a lot of intentionality and effort and even some tracking if that's helpful for you, journaling if that's helpful for you. But with enough time and with enough practice, you can absolutely be so in tune to yourself to know that today is not a good day. What is going on? Is it something I can help right now? Or is this just something I'm going through and tomorrow is going to be better? And if you can give yourself enough grace to know that today's just a bad day, maybe you just order some pizza and you throw on a movie and maybe you skip soccer practice because you've been going every night this week and you just need a break.
I think it was you and I that had that conversation on a chat about just having a waffle night.
Oh, yes, yes, I was talking
Yes.
about protein pancakes.
Yes, protein pancakes. Oh my gosh. Last night, my daughter and I had protein waffles for
Awesome.
dinner. But it was exactly what you're saying. Like, you give yourself enough grace, like, okay, I'm not going to have all of the different food groups in tonight's meal because I cannot pull that off. But you know what? This is what I can do. And we're going to freaking do protein waffles because I can. And that's okay.
Great. I mean, and they're fed. and they
Yeah.
have some nutrients in there, and the kids are happy, and it's great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, my kiddo last night was like, "You're gonna have waffles too, mom?" It was just yeah, yep, I am.
I
So
love that, that's
I
awesome.
know. Well, I do try to have podcast episodes that are digestible because we only have so much time to listen. With that, though, if one of the listeners was sitting there thinking, like, okay, I know that I need to start to get a grip on my business, start taking these moments to reflect, but I need somebody to help me. Where is the best place for them to find you?
You can go visit my website and send me an email. I actually have a Facebook group as well. If you wanted to go on there, it's called The Mobile Mamas. You don't necessarily even have to be a mom, but you can join the group and we talk about life and business and everything.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Melanie, for taking the time to chat with me. I loved this conversation and I look forward to staying connected with you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at Wander Mode Co. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.